All right, welcome. We have a special guest, Tim Harrison, with us here today. How's it going?
Oh, it's excellent. Thank you so much for inviting me, Nicole. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on. It's a beautiful, I'm coming from Toronto, so it's beautiful and sunny. We barely got, like, honest to God, we barely got winter here, which is
Mm.
crazy because I've always lived here and we always get pounded with snow. How about out in Calgary? I know you guys might have a different story.
Oh, Calgary is perfect. We're at sitting at +9, I think. Oh, no,
Oh,
10
ooh,
degrees
that's a little
today.
braggy.
We did get the cold temperatures right after Christmas for the 3 weeks. It was pretty frigid, but otherwise, I'm a born and raised Calgarian. So weather for me, I love it because all of a sudden it'll be nice and warm, might be a little cold, but then we'll get those Chinooks rolling through.
The
So I love that.
Chinooks. Yes. I used to actually live in Calgary for 5 years. And yeah,
There
the
you go.
Chinooks. Although I was one of the victims of the headaches when like all the
Oh, the
Chinooks and
migraines.
the
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's brutal. Yes, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
the change. But if you're a natural Calgarian, then
No headaches, no migraines, or whatever, unless I want to get out of work one day and then all of a sudden, oh, I feel a headache coming on. That's from a career professional. Sorry, you never heard that from me. I don't do that. I don't miss work. I always do.
no, I don't think anybody in Calgary does that, Tim. I
Right?
don't think I've ever heard that before. You might be preaching to the choir on that one.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's funny because it's one of those things that you would just need to say it, and everybody knows what it means in Calgary. But if you're not from there, then
No one
migraine,
understands.
what?
Yeah.
Awesome, right on. Well, I always like to start my episodes off with a cheers. And you know what? I don't know if you even have a coffee or a water or anything in your hands right now, but a virtual. Oh, yay! Oh, look at us.
Oh my
Starbucks. I have
God,
one of
that's
those
brilliant. Yeah.
digital
Oh, there it
backgrounds.
is. Oh, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can actually put that in, but I'm a big fan of this company, that's for
I
sure.
know. Same here. Although we probably should be because we're like in Canada drinking Tim Hortons, but
Right?
oh.
Well, and I do drink that for everybody
Okay.
listening. I do drink Tim's as well. It just happened to be Starbucks today.
Well, it looks like we're matching. We're matching, and we
Mm,
did not plan that.
no, not ahead
But
of time.
I wanted to start off. I think a lot of the times, as hardworking people, and especially people in the education space, we tend to have full schedules, and we're really really busy, and we never take a step back and really appreciate the things people say about us. So I wanted to spend some time on this podcast, and I did a little bit of homework on you. And I found a few comments, and there was many, but we only have so much time in this podcast that I wanted your listeners to hear about you because I think it says a lot about someone what people say about you. And so let's get into it. All right, you ready for this? All
Okay,
right.
okay.
So it says, Tim, you deliver words in a way that feel inspirational, purposeful, and meaningful. You make everyone you work with know that you're committed to the greater good. There's no means to measure just how many lives you've changed in your many years of experiences that you have. It's remarkable.
Oh,
And
that
then
is
this next
awesome.
one is also awesome. It says, Tim is an absolute pleasure to work with. He makes work feel fun and light. And everyone's going to know that just from talking to you right now. Tim is dedicated to his job and adds ease and excitement into any environment, which is amazing for anybody that works with humans.
Oh my God.
Tim is willing to go above and beyond for any student
Yeah.
and works hard to help them achieve their success. So in their careers and being successful. So I'm not surprised you're in the education space and very successful. So
Thank
cheers to
you.
that. I wanted to take a second cheers because that's really awesome. And you're obviously doing a good job in Calgary.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Yay.
and to be honest, I work for Sundance College now. I did start my career at Robertson College, but in both of those private colleges, I work with people across Canada. So that's a big thing to emphasize is that when we talk about advice, career coaching, that I'm not just about Calgary and its environment, because we have campuses in Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg, but because of our new and wonderful virtual environment from COVID, et cetera, that, I've become very good at working with people across Canada, including beautiful Nova Scotia, and of course, all the way to, Vancouver and all of that on that side too. So, I may not be an expert in the local towns and things, what's available employment wise, but as far as Canada and what's expected nationally, that's one thing I like, I'm happy to say that I've educated myself about for a lot of different people, and I'm happy to help people across Canada for sure.
That is awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, I've been lucky enough to live in British Columbia. I'm from Nova Scotia and
Lucky
Calgary, so
you.
Alberta.
Yeah.
And now I'm in Ontario, and it's funny because you do deal like I call myself fully diversified because every single province you go to has such a unique people to meet with amazing backgrounds. So I can
Yeah, you bet.
appreciate exactly what you're saying about, you get to work all across Canada and
Yeah.
help a lot of people.
Well, and it's important to emphasize that, like when I work with our students, our graduates, our alumni, that, when I'm talking about career counseling or whatever you want to call it, it's, I do tell them I'm in Calgary, but then I have to be really clear that you've got to understand, but I'm also very comfortable with advising you across the province of Alberta, or Saskatchewan,
Exactly.
because a lot of people might have reservations knowing that they live in Saskatoon, and they're like, well, why am I talking to a guy in Calgary? Because I mean, Calgary, oil and gas,
Yeah,
redneck,
yeah,
what have you. And then you're like, well, what do you know about Saskatchewan? And so for me, those are a bit of wake up calls when people challenge me on
yeah,
suggestions and tips, where I'm like, you know what? I need to delve deeper. Do I
yeah,
know, and how can I help somebody any better if I'm just providing them tips that may work in Calgary, but they might not work in Saskatoon? So that's something that's been very important to me. And
yeah,
you know, I love those compliments at the beginning. That's really super nice. But really at the end of the day, my success comes from the success of every individual that I work with. And so if I'm not able to properly explain to them what job trends are in Saskatoon, or what job trends are in Ontario,
yeah,
across that province for that matter, why would I expect anyone to listen or to
exactly.
understand? So
Exactly, 100%. No, that's awesome. Well, just a little bit more about you. I just want to keep going on and on.
thank you.
But for our listeners, just so they have a little bit more of your background, because you're bringing up some great points. You have over 7 years, it might be more, in the education system, in
Mhm.
a variety of different roles, such as learner engagement, workforce development, career service and career services. And the one thing that I really loved is that you always put people first, and you can tell that by what people are saying about you, that you're very dedicated and
Thank
passionate, and
you.
that you love. So I'm not surprised to read that your number one passion is to ensure the student is successful, right? So they're lucky to work with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really
This is just
appreciate
a pump
that.
up podcast, by the way. You just come on and meet me, and then I'm just like, you're a great person. Like, happy Friday.
Thank you. I just keep saying, when did the name change from Modern Careers to all of a sudden the Tim Harrison podcast? Because this is compelling. I love this Tim Harrison podcast. It's
That actually
great.
sounds like that sounds like a cool podcast. So you might, maybe this is the start to your own
Right? Oh
podcast
God.
of like, hey, I'm talking to Nick, and by Monday you might be starting the Tim Harrison show.
Right? Yeah.
Let me know. I'd love to
Oh
be part of
God.
it.
Oh God. I love that. Thank you, Nicole. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into. I mean, you have such an extensive background. Let's dive into some questions. And so it is the Modern Career Podcast, and
Yeah.
a lot of today we're talking about the future. Of course, we're always talking about the future, but in the industry, we're seeing AI move very quickly. I'm my background. I'm more on the tech side of things, so I am part of this fast moving industry. So I'd love
Yeah.
to meet people with you, and really because you're working hands on with the students. And I guess I wanted to start off my podcast with the question of, you know, how do you see the student career paths changing in the next decade with all these changes coming down the pipeline of AI, technology and advancements?
Well, I think as far as the employment trends and employer, market itself, yeah, I mean, obviously AI may impact some demographic, some population of people negatively, but from my point of view, I think only of the positive side. And really, I will have to say, I mean, when a lot of people that I chat with day to day and every year, we having computer skills is mandatory regardless, right? You've got to be able to understand computers to begin with. So for me, I think the advantage, or for those that are currently looking at education or considering career changes, I think the important thing to recognize is that any sort of addition to their own computer skills and abilities is going to be important, with AI and things like this. And I will have a funny anecdote. You can laugh at me because I'm an old guy. Anybody can look at that and go, oh, yeah, that Tim is from that baby boomer generation. What the hell do they know? But the
Right.
truth, and so ever since I started with Sundance, I've had a number of my colleagues come and approach me and go, oh, when you're writing an email, you should actually get it, through Chat GPT.
Yep.
And this is where the laughter comes in, is I'm like, I don't know. I'm always suspicious of any new technology,
Yeah. Yeah.
or whatever. But at the end of the day, as a career person, I would absolutely recommend that if you can take micro courses, if you can teach yourself more learning, the more you know technology, the better it'll be employment wise. But to also recognize you must embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to be prepared because it is changing. And I mean, I will say, Nicole, full disclosure, no names, but to this very day,
Yeah.
I still work with people who don't understand how computers work,
Yep.
or can't even open a Word
Yep.
document. And for me, that's a real, I stress for those people. I emphasize, because I'm like, there is no job anymore where you're not going to be working with a computer in
I
some way or
know.
another.
I know.
Right?
It's so true. That just made me think of, I have a younger daughter. I won't embarrass myself and say how old she is from what I'm going to tell you, but she like, I am telling you, she knows how to use the remote control. And my first thought was, yay, you can show, your mom how to switch between these millions of programs. And like, when I have some tech trouble, my daughter's going to be able to troubleshoot me, which is funny about when you think of, different generations and how fast tech
Yeah.
is moving. Is like, that was my initial thought of this, 10 months old, that like, she's just going to be this computer whiz of,
Right. Right.
like, heaven knows what these kids are going to be able to do. But it's, so to your point, it's moving quickly, but it's not going away.
No. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think the more that we can prepare ourselves, and absolutely this applies to me. We multiple career changes, multiple career paths. This is not anything that when I was fresh out of university that I was like, oh, I'm going to become a
Yeah.
career professional. That wasn't a thing. It kind
Yeah.
of fell into my lap, if you will. But at the end of the day, even when I was a young man, it was like, okay, the future is coming. What can I do
Yeah.
to make myself the most employable that I
Yeah.
can? What skills can I bring to that? And that, for us, it's not going away. So just denying the fact that, oh, computers are a fad, or I don't like computers, that's all well and good, but that doesn't change the fact that it's going to be part of your job every single day. And
Yeah.
that includes AI. And,
Exactly.
that's why I want people to laugh at me going, oh, he doesn't understand Chat GPT, which is true. But I'm like, God damn, I better learn. I better
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because you never know when I might get into a position where I might have even a leadership
Yes.
opportunity, right?
Yes.
And they're like, oh, what do you know about this?
What is this?
So
Well, it's funny you say that, because I mean, we're obviously a tech company, but we won't hire anybody that doesn't have AI experience. So it's
Mhm.
funny, like that's to show you how quickly things are evolving. Of when we're doing interviews, well, it's have you used Chat GPT? How are you bettering
Yeah.
yourself in this job? So going off of that, one like big epiphany I've had this week, and I saw a post about it. And I mean, I work in the space, so it's almost irony in some way. But I the best way I saw it in this post is AI is able to now enhance people's jobs in the sense of like you can full have like we have digital assistants that will go and do the interviews, do and perform and deliver results back to career coaches. I mean, there's a lot of tools now that are moving
Yeah.
quickly, so that's not going away. But what and where humans work with this technology is that EQ skills and the human skills. So this is where I think students and us as professionals can really differentiate ourselves, where we can bring this to
I
the
love it.
table.
Yeah.
So how can we continue? And this question is for you. How can we can continue to push students to have these human skills that companies are gonna we've been hearing soft skills
Right.
and human skills
Yeah.
are important, but
Yeah.
now I think that just got 10x.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And we can't just talk about it anymore. We actually have to take action because it's just like as the days go by, they're even more behind and behind and behind.
Right? Yeah. Well, and I have tips, I have suggestions on that, but you're right. I mean, it's very interesting. And I will say that this isn't new. Like this is something that was in the last 10 to 15 years where I've seen this real trend about employers that are hiring based on personality, based on enthusiasm, excitement, all of these things under this EQ and the emotional intelligence that we have in the position. Like even when, and as a reference to the fact that, like you were saying, Nicole, you're from IT, one of the things that I learned early on as a career services professional was that many of the IT employers that I partnered with that was helping students and our graduates and alumni would often tell me that they want someone who fits with their company culture. That's a number one. And then the second one would be the technology side. And
Yes.
and I've even had professionals tell me, the young, like small startups that said to me, we don't want to hire anybody with IT experience. And I found that blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? He goes, because we can teach them. And because everything changes sometimes within 6 months, they're like, we would prefer that we teach them what we do and our
Yeah.
processes, but we can't teach somebody emotional intelligence. We can't teach somebody how to fit with a culture, to be a team player, to be
No.
somebody that recognizes the value of our
Yeah.
day to day. And so, for me, and one of the things that we do, and at least throughout my career, is setting up one-on-one sessions with
Yeah.
graduates and alumni and students that are asking for help so that we can go over those soft skills.
I love
Um,
that.
right?
I
And
love it.
and a lot of private colleges and I should say public as well, publicly funded universities and colleges across Canada, there's a real focus on the soft skills as part of the whole curriculum. And for a lot of people that I talk to, they always complain about, well, why do I have to do this? What does this
I know.
mean? Right? And so, but at the end of the day, that's where it is. It's you've got to bring yourself. You get that interview,
Yeah.
you've got to demonstrate how you're going to fit in there. It's not about answering questions about what the experience you bring necessarily, but how you bring it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's so true. And
right.
and I read this article recently that I think it was 85 or 87% of like the new generation has menu ordering anxiety. So if they go into a restaurant, a large portion of them, so let's say 8 out of
Fair
10,
enough. Yeah.
don't want to order from a menu. So that just gives us an idea of where, and the need.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm a boomer. I'm old. I got gray hair. I just diet
No,
plunge.
you're not.
And I am.
You're way too young. You look way too young to be
But
able
this
to.
new generation,
Yeah.
that keeps me up at night to be
Yeah.
like, what can we do? Um, and it's irony of the passion and what I do, but what can we do to make, because I have a daughter coming up in this world, right? And what do
Yes.
we do to create these safe places for them to feel comfortable enough to order? Because for us, it's just like, oh, whatever, I'll take a glass of
Yeah.
wine, a 10 ounce, and whatever's on the menu. No big deal. Don't think about it. Don't feel anxiety. But they're actually struggling with this. And as I think leaders, both you and I, it's those
Yeah.
important conversations we need to have of what environments can we take and create for these students to feel comfortable enough.
Well, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I have a 12-year-old daughter as well, besides 3 adult sons and 2 grandkids, just
Oh,
for perspective,
congratulations.
everybody. Yeah, thank you. And so my 12-year-old, and I know she's bugged by this. Trust me. I know as a 12-year-old, she's like, my parents don't know anything. So,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
normal.
right. But for me, the biggest thing is to get her out and connecting with people face to face, because, and there's no blame here, but our technology, our smartphones and everything get us looking very
Yeah.
insular. We're on our own. We're sole people. And so when you talk about that anecdote about the fact that they're scared to, read off, like order off a menu or whatever, for me, I'm like, we can't have that. Well, career-wise, going back to the career
Oh,
side of
yeah.
things, because you're going to be client facing. There are multiple positions
Yeah.
where you think, oh, I'll just work independently in a quiet office and I really don't have to engage with anyone. In my own career path, that wasn't even a thing. And
No.
I've worked for the airline industry. I've worked in nonprofit, for decades, and now with private colleges and post-secondary,
Yeah.
just to name three. But those areas, it doesn't matter what the role was. I'm in front of people at some point or another in that job. And if
Yeah.
you have trouble collaborating with people, if you have trouble facilitating, if you have trouble even leading short-term projects, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And that's where it comes back to almost having to teach people from scratch what soft skills and their
Yeah.
abilities,
I
and
agree.
yeah,
I agree. And your daughter is that future generation that will be going for a job, right? And
right.
I'm sure she's going to be asking at some point for dad's help. And how do we prepare? And I think you have the solution. It's getting more comfortable with that interaction and living with technology, but also stepping outside those comfort zones. Okay, well, that's
I
super
agree.
cool. That's I love the points that you made.
Thank
So
you.
this is when we move into the fun modern career. Not that, what we're talking about is fun, but
Right.
I didn't ask you before the podcast, so I'm not even sure if you have this, but I'm old school, as I mentioned. So do you happen to have a piece of paper and a pen on you by chance?
Yeah,
Okay,
always. I have to.
cool.
I
Same,
don't
same.
know, right? If I don't write it down, I gotta write it down.
I'm
Yeah.
the same. I have many people on my team. They just have like 3 screens and no
Right?
paper. And I'm like, okay, okay. Um, okay. So we are, this is funny, but I always feel like for this edition, we need music and excitement. Do you have any like what's your all-time favorite song to put you on the spot?
Oh my.
I have my
Uh,
Apple Music open. We're gonna search it. You can pick
so
one song, like on a Friday, it's 10
yeah.
degrees in Calgary.
Well, one of my go-tos is Band of Horses, and I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Oh,
A Band of Horses, and the title of the song that I love and is "No One Is Going to Love You."
okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna
And
play this. Hopefully
are
it
you
comes through the
sure? I don't
speaker.
know if
I'm
anyone.
just playing it on my phone. So hopefully it comes through on the speaker. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna play it. And so the first part of this fun edition of our career segment is, why do you think, so write down one thing, the biggest thing of why you think students don't get the interview. Okay, I'm gonna play the music. This is a good one.
Yeah. And they have another one called The Funeral, which is brilliant as well.
This is great. Okay. Hopefully our listeners are enjoying this. Who cares? We do.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe all of a sudden Band of Horses will start seeing some royalties coming in going, what's going on? It's just a flood of them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I got to think about this because I do this segment, but I don't want to write down notes so I can think about it on the spot. Okay, so why do you think students don't get hired? Okay. And my marker is not working.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, I need to find a pen here. Okay. I think Grammarly might have ruined my spelling because it auto spells for me, so I never learn. I don't know if I've spelled this right.
It's true, right? Oh my God, I love that.
Pause our awesome music here. Okay. Okay, you go first. You go first.
All right. So I wrote down 3 things, but you're saying the biggest. So I'll start with number 1, and then if you tell me, Nicole, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, give me the other 2.
Okay, hold it up. I want you to hold it up. Can you hold
really? Oh God. Oh, then I've got to write it really big. Okay. Maybe you guys can see it on my camera.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
wait,
sorry.
up. Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know. My writing is
okay. Self-screening.
Really, so self-screening. So for me, the people and the individuals that I interact with every single day and that look for assistance, it's often that they screen themselves out based on what they see in the job description. And for a lot of people, whether they're looking at these job search engines, Indeed, Glassdoor, Monster, etc., or whether they're seeing a job description on a company website, we assume that, and I do say we because this has been me years ago, is that we have to check off all of those boxes, that you can't apply until you meet that requirement. And in my own career path, that has been absolutely incorrect. I often will tell people when I'm sitting down on a one-on-one session that there was a time in my career where I was applying. I had applied and had an interview for one particular role. Right in the middle of that interview, all of a sudden, this executive director says, wait a minute, you have this and you have that. And they're like, we have another opening. Would you consider? And then they brought in this job description and immediately changed transitions to interview for the second one, which I got. And I even preferred the second one to the first one. And so, that was really an eye-opening experience for me in that, oh, okay, wait a minute. You never know what an employer might accept. And so a lot of my counseling, coaching, whatever you want to call it, sessions are about, you need to have more confidence in yourself, but more importantly, you need to stop self-screening. And I often say, particularly with people who have limited experience or no experience at all, apply for something, even if they ask for 5 years and under. I'm like, always apply. You never know what the employer on the other end is willing to compromise on. So you see these ads now that come up about master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, etc., and they need 15 years of experience. And I'm like, well, that and on top of it, that they pay $19 an hour, which that's probably a whole other podcast that gives me a head shake. But my point is that, we tend to look at all these things and go, well, I don't meet that and I don't meet that criteria. And so my advice has always been, if you can check off 70% of whatever those points are, you apply, because you never know what someone might see. So that has been a really big thing, because we sit there and we look at these job descriptions and go, no, or they're too nervous. And I guess that ties into the second one, where I'm like, the lack of confidence. And this goes back to what we were talking about emotional intelligence, is that you have to be aware. You've got to be confident. You've got to come into an interview going, oh, I have the skills you need. I'm the candidate. It's just a matter of me of you seeing it at the other
Yeah.
side of that table. And it's not about being arrogant, and it's not about bragging. It's just being confident in saying, you know, I applied for this position because I know I can do it. I'm looking at the job description, and as we're going through the interview, you're answering all my questions. And oh, by the way, did you know that I also have, you know, AI coding experience
Yeah.
back there, or that, like you were saying, Chat GPT? I'm a
Yeah.
relative expert in that. So, you know, those sorts of things will come to bear. And I often will coach people to say, look at the interview as this is your opportunity to sell yourself. And it really is. This is your sales and everything, because the paperwork is done. The resume is good. It got you that interview. That's the step. Now we can move aside from that. Now, here is where your salesmanship comes in. And I'm sure you know this as an expert that you are, Nicole, but I mean, we know in the career services field anyways, that within the first 5 minutes or less of an interview, they've
Yeah.
already decided whether you're the right candidate or not. And then, regardless of how long that interview takes, will either confirm or change their mind about their initial assessment. And so for me, I'm like, that's key. Bring that confidence to bear. You bring that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And that includes when you're applying. Look at those positions and go, can you do this? Yeah, I absolutely can. And then go from there.
And
I
am
hope
I
that helps.
confident enough to learn it too, right? So when you're,
Correct.
you know, if you have the skill set to learn quickly, then don't, you know, underestimate what you can do. I love that. I think there's a lot to untangle in there in the sense of,
Right?
and a lot of great tips for people listening. Because I think we are harder on ourselves than we need to be.
Yeah.
And it's ensuring that you do have the confidence and that you can go out and qualify. Because what do you have to lose?
Well, and that's the thing. I said the worst that can happen is they say no. And I'm going, and I'm, you know,
Yeah.
I'm from a guy that has applied for literally thousands of jobs in my career for one reason or another, getting laid off here or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, or making a transition from one company to another. I've had and been forced to look for employment. And so I've made thousands of mistakes in my own career path where I recognize later in life, oh man, if only I'd changed that
If I did
little
that,
bit. And but the point is that again, you've got to recognize your value. Do your when you're applying for those positions and look at it and go, what is all the value I'm bringing, and make sure that's front and center. And then, you know, but I've seen people where they apply for a position, they get to an interview, and I've done mock interviews and lots of things to help with our students, grads, and alumni. And but one of the things I find very interesting is how intimidated they get once they get to the interview. And my very first question to anyone after we've done a mock interview, for example, is, so why did you apply for the job in the first place? Because you clearly in the interview didn't demonstrate that you were interested or that you were enthusiastic about it,
yeah,
or to even tell me anything really of interest that would make you the candidate. You simply answered my questions, right?
yeah,
And that was it,
that's it. Yeah, no,
right?
100%.
And so I'm like, you know, confidence doesn't come across on paper. Confidence
No,
comes across when you and I are sitting down chatting, whether it's virtual, whether it's across the desk or whatever.
it's
Um,
true. It's true. And I think it's so good for anyone listening and any students to realize that though, right? And that could
yeah,
just give them that extra boost in the interviews or even professionals like that, just that, okay, make sure I'm exerting. I remember, so my previous lifetime was banking, and I remember I was
oh,
going for
brilliant.
like my dream job in training at the time. And it was the interview, you know, in person. And I remember being in the bathroom. It sounds silly, but I like did that bear tip where I was like making myself big, like, come on, like, and someone gave me this tip. They're like, no, you go in there and you know, show
I've
them
done
who you
that.
are. And I
I've
was
done
literally
that.
like, just like, wow, in the mirror,
Yes.
like a, you know, is Nicole okay sort of thing. And luckily no one was in the bathroom. And I got the job. Must have done something.
Right? I've done it. It's so funny that you say that. In my early 20s, I did that once with a job. Atco is a global, you know, company. And so I had an opportunity to interview for an Atco job. And I walked into that office building. I forget now where it was at the time, and went into and screamed in the
Yeah,
mirror. And I was just
yeah.
like, you know,
I'm gonna
and
get this job.
hilarious, right?
I'm gonna show you. I'm the one, no one else. Works. Did you get the
Right? Oh, no, I didn't. But that's okay because that was
Now
a
you're
good
where you are.
experience, right? Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's lots of reasons why we don't get the job either, and I'm sure that's a whole other podcast. But
Well, let's hold that thought. Let's hold that
yeah,
thought. So the final part of our segment here is let's have some fun. Part two. We're gonna bring in AI. We're gonna bring in
oh,
Mark,
God.
and we're gonna ask him, see what he
Perfect.
thinks. Let's see if he agrees with us humans. So I'll do a screen share here. I want to play this song still, so just bear with me. We have a couple minutes still, so
I love it.
we're gonna go see what Mark's up to. This is my buddy. Okay, so why don't people get hired? So actually, no, let's do David. David. I said Mark, but let's do David.
Perfect.
Let's make him playful today. We're having too much fun. All
Oh,
right.
I love that. Yes.
We're gonna talk to him and we're gonna see what he thinks. All right, here we go. Do. Here he comes, Tim. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got all these microphones. All right, can you see this?
It's got, yeah, I can see a screen that says the other person is joining the call.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, they're awesome.
Hey there. Ready to dive into the mysteries of the job search?
Hey, David, how are you? I'm here with Tim, and we have some questions for you.
Hey Tim. I'm doing great, thanks for asking. What's on your mind today?
So I'm Nicole. So I'm joined with Tim and David. We wanted to jump on. It's Friday afternoon. It's currently 9 degrees in Calgary. So me and Tim are having some fun, and we've been brainstorming. We've been talking about our previous experiences on why do we think that people and students and professionals, don't get an interview. And we have our own opinions we talked about, but we would love to start off by hearing your opinion.
Nice to meet you, Nicole and Tim. Sounds like a great way to spend a Friday afternoon. So, what are some of the opinions you've come up with so far? I'm curious.
Well, before we tell you our opinions, we want to know your opinion.
Fair enough. Well, one thing I've noticed is that some candidates focus too much on their qualifications and not enough on their personality and fit with the company. What do you think about that?
Brilliant. That is
What do you think,
fantastic.
Tim?
Yes, yes, I love that.
What other factors do you think play a role in people not getting hired? Any other thoughts or experiences you'd like to share?
Sure, I'll let Tim share with you.
Oh, yes. So for me, my big concern is also a lack of confidence in the interview. Is that something that you would also agree with, David?
Confidence is key, for sure. But, Tim, how do you think people can work on building their confidence for interviews? Any tips or strategies that you found helpful?
Yes, absolutely, David. I mean, for me, preparation for any interview is key, and not just a few minutes. I'm talking several hours of preparation, researching the company, preparing your own questions, reviewing and practicing and rehearsing, even from that matter, your common questions that you're going to get in an interview, as well as really specific, depending on the field. What do you think, David? Is that something you'd agree with?
Absolutely, preparation is crucial. Do you think there's such a thing as over-preparation? Can you spend too much time preparing for an interview, or is there no such thing as too much preparation?
I don't think there is no too much preparation. I think the more prepared you are and more rehearsed you are, the more easy it is to tell your career stories, to answer questions, and fluently, and then can add wonderful anecdotes or new information that you haven't rehearsed because you already have that solid story and preparation in your prepared, if you will.
That's a great point, Nicole. So, in your opinion, what's the biggest mistake that people make during interviews? Anything that stands out to you as a common pitfall?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, let me think about this. So me and Tim, we're gonna come up with one and see what you think. I love this segment. This is actually the second part of my interview segment. The biggest, I think the biggest pitfall from my experience interviewing people, I mean, there's a lot, but Tim actually brought it up in the sense of like people make an impression of you the first 5 minutes. And I think people really miss the boat on the relationship human side of it because they're nervous. So they have to come in and they just met the person. So I think it's like key to really, if you're not a relatable person, like how can you practice and really hone in on that skill set of building the relationship when you're meeting that person. So that's my like number one thing. Tim, what do you think?
Actually, I totally agree. First impressions are key, regardless of what the field is, or whether you know the interviewer, or how you got that employment opportunity in the interview. Even if you know that person very well, your dress, the body language, how you hold yourself and bring yourself in. And one of the crucial pieces for me, learning from mistakes, is about how you even talk to the very first staff person that you meet in that office. I will often coach people on the fact that when you walk in, that administrative person at the very beginning who welcomes you is someone that the interviewer will go to after the interview to say, how was Tim? How was he, would you like a coffee? All of those things. If you treat that individual poorly at the beginning or don't have the right attitude, that could jeopardize the employment offer.
Wow, it sounds like you both have a wealth of insights. I'm curious, do you have any tips for making a strong first impression? What are some things that candidates can do to ensure they make a positive impact in those crucial first few minutes?
Well, David, we actually have to run right now, but just on that note, can you leave us with your opinion, just one opinion? What do you think the number one reason, just one, of why a candidate doesn't get hired?
Sure thing. Before you go, I'd say that a lack of genuine enthusiasm can be a major reason why a candidate doesn't get hired. What do you think about that?
We agree. 100%. Well, thank you so much, David, for taking the time to chat with us. Me and Tim wanted to make sure that, our years of experience were cool. We were curious to see what you thought of what we were thinking.
It was a pleasure chatting with you, Nicole and Tim.
Thank
It's
you,
always
David.
great to hear different perspectives and insights. Best of luck with your brainstorming and job search.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, Tim, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. This is way too much fun.
Oh, it is. I could spend hours. If you have your Friday afternoon open, let's just talk. You can put it into a million different podcasts that go off. I'm sure if people can see this, besides just hearing, I talk with my hands, you can tell how enthusiastic I get about it. And there's nothing better than being able to provide somebody, even with just one little grain of truth or a diamond there that can help them in anything and find success. It's something I had to learn the hard way. I'm sure you have numerous examples of that too. And so, first of all, I appreciate the podcast very, very much. I think the topic is important for everybody, regardless of whether you're an old timer like me or somebody that's brand new to career searching or somebody that's brand new to our country for that matter, I think these types of resources are crucial to that. But more importantly than anything else, thank you so much for considering me as a potential candidate to as a guest. And I really appreciate that, Nicole. And I do mean that sincerely. Thank you for that. And I appreciate your time as well. Your questions were thoughtful and brilliant. And thank you for making it so much fun.
Well, thanks for coming on and taking the time. It's a treat for me to talk to industry experts. It takes years and years to get experience, and it's so great to get the human insights of what's happening. What are you seeing in the education
Yeah.
system? And like you said, if there's just one little nugget that someone can get from this podcast to help them get that dream career, whether it's doing this in the mirror or whatever it is, then I think we made a difference. So virtual high fives.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And just quickly, if someone wanted to reach out to say who this Tim guy is, can they find you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. It is the LinkedIn, and the URL is the Tim Harrison.